Hey, deserving listeners. Sometimes I need to say it slowly, otherwise the closed caption will make it, they'll interpret me saying like, hey, deserving Germans or something. Anyway, let's watch Love is Blind.
Nick's cute. I told her, I was like, he's much cuter than...
No, he is. Much
yeah. And I feel like that sounds bad, but I just said it, so.
How are you?
We're really good. Like, this is the thing, like, I'm self-aware enough to know, like, my own flaws, right? Like, I think with him, sometimes I'm very overcritical and I'm hard on him because I'm so overcritical and hard on myself.
Okay, that's interesting and encouraging. I'm glad for her. I don't imagine Hannah and Nick, getting married in the end. So I'm more encouraged for her sake moving forward with her dating life that she is saying, and she's never said this, or we've never heard this. So she's saying, I'm overcritical of Dick, which is true. And she's basically said that in the past, but typically what she'll say is, I'm overcritical of him and I need to work on that, but he needs to stop being aggravating, that kind of. But this time she says, because I'm overcritical and hard on myself. That's interesting. And that fits in the hypothesis that I have at the top of my list regarding what's going on with her. I, of course, can't know, but of the hypotheses that I have about her, that is completely in line, with the hypothesis that I laid out earlier.
Fun Hannah, too.
Yeah. He's great to me, and I love Nick. He's perfect for me, but I think, like, I could be the best thing in the world for Nick just because, like, there's so many things that he
could show him.
Yes.
Remember when we were in the airport, you were like, I want you to try new cuisines. I want you to try this. I want you to try that.
In the midst of that conversation, like almost 2 or 3 sentences after saying that, she's saying I'm overcritical because I'm overcritical on myself, and it's interesting because I've seen this before, that she's saying, I'm the perfect partner for him because I can show him so many things. And that's just a nice way of saying that you're superior and smarter and he's dumber and inferior, right? It's one thing if you're thinking we both have things we can teach each other or something, but that's not what her communication or her perspective has been, right? It's that she can explain things to him. And, if you're thinking, well, my partner has expressed that they'd like to learn about finances and about living on their own, and I am looking forward to going down that journey with them. Okay, but why would it come up in the midst of this conversation, right? Let's rewind that.
Best thing in the world for Nick just because, like, there's so many things that he
could show him.
Yeah.
I think Ashley knows what's going on and is actually trying to help Hannah, I think. And yeah. So to expand on this a little bit, that if you have trauma regarding, so if she's overcritical of herself, which I don't doubt, and she then in all likelihood she was overly criticized. And if you're overly criticized, then you internalize that, you start to criticize yourself, and then you in all likelihood will start criticizing other people. Listen to all my deep dives on projective identification. It completely explains, it's a good model for understanding that. No other, in my book anyway, psychological or therapeutic model of personality and behavior explains this pattern better than psychodynamic, psychoanalytic, projective identification, internalization, interject, all that, object relations, all that stuff. Anyway, so when we have that overcriticalness, we become that, we start saying it to ourselves, we start enacting it with others, even though we don't like to be critical because we know what it's like to be in the receiving end of that, but because of our defenses and our self-esteem issues and our compulsion to repeat things, we end up enacting it, but we obscure it from ourselves, and we will deny it, we'll distort it so that the ego can get through the day. We have a lot of defenses that help us feel like we're good people. And we do a lot of things, particularly if we haven't recovered and we're not aware, we do a lot of things that if we were to notice them, we would say, oh my God, I'm a bad person. Now, no one should, or very few people should be saying that I am a bad person, but because of our limited understanding and our fragility about certain things, because of the way we're treated, we will jump to that conclusion if we know, like if she were to notice, like, oh, I am overcritical, like she is doing, even if she noticed in the moment, there's a chance that she might say, oh, I'm worthless. I'm never going to find anyone. I'm unlovable, that kind of thing. That is in all likelihood something that happens to her. And again, it's overly critical, right? She would deserve actually to say to herself in that moment, oh, I'm doing that thing again. I'm still a good person. I'm just having a moment right now. Hopefully y'all can have that. I know some of you don't, because you'll email me or comment. Like sometimes people will comment that when I say, please take care of yourself because you deserve it, you really, really do. Some of you will say, I can't believe it when you say it. I know intellectually that I should be allowed to take care of myself and that I do deserve to take care of myself, but I've never believed that I deserved anything, let alone taking care of myself. And it's because of internalized voices, and it's because of the way people are treated. So the whole point is that the defense is there to help us believe that we are a good person, because there's this internalized voice telling us that the internalized voice, the overcriticalness, is both causing us to be critical and it's criticizing us for being critical. So it's all one big unfair treatment within us that's been internalized. Anyway, I hope that makes sense. And in that process, if we look at it and notice it, if we have enough awareness and we're like, oh, I need to stop doing that, the self will figure out another way to enact it. And another way to enact overcriticalness is to believe that he is stupid and needs to be taught things. And you can go to bed at night saying, I'm not critical, I'm just teaching him things. And so this is an example of that, I think. Do you know what I mean?
Remember when we were in the airport, you were like, I want you to try new cuisines. I want you to try this. I want you to try that. You're like, you're used to sticking to the same things. I was like, wow, go Hannah, because you could really broaden his...
Okay. I thought Ashley was there to help, but she's just making conversation. She doesn't know what's been happening, really. So she's just having a conversation, but I don't think this is helping. But it's interesting. So we're hearing yet again, and someone else is noticing, because this wasn't on camera. So they're in the airport coming back from Mexico, I'm guessing. And Hannah is like, you need to try new things. You need to try new foods. You need to, and we can imagine what that conversation looked like and just how much it is within this overall campaign or vibe or pattern of hers of putting him down. And we can imagine Nick going, oh yeah, thanks. You're going to teach me so much. And because he fits well with that for some reason.
I am. That's the thing. It's like he just hasn't had the opportunity to. And I think that's sexually too. I think when he said sex with partners, he told me like with past partners, it's just like that woman, right? Where it's like you get off and you probably don't even think to ask if she had hers, right? Yeah. That's the thing. Is like we have to get there. Yeah. I was like, and the way we get there, like it doesn't come natural. Like if we have to work for it, we work for it, right?
And okay. Yeah, so that's a good thing to, so there's different ways of framing that. One is Hannah is his teacher, his superior, his mom. Another is she's advocating for her needs. That's just a completely different narrative, right? That, that could be the theme of this bit here of just like, yeah, I'm learning how to advocate for my needs. And his past partners or his experience was that he wasn't very attentive sexually. And I'm advocating for my needs, and he's really listening to that, and he's starting to do those things. That's great. That's a different way of framing it than I am here to teach him from a superior position,
When I've been communicating for the past 2 weeks about what I need, like I told him exactly what I need sexually that turns me on, and you don't do it, you just continue to do the same thing that gets you off, then it's frustrating. Because like I
and then it's like I have to go to other tools. I gotta grab
He's very jealous of my vibrator, for
sorry.
sure.
Well,
I haven't had sex with a lot of people, but the people that I've had sex with, we've been very sexually explorative. Nick's not like that, right? And
yeah, so what she's about to say, she's like, it's almost like it's an 18-year-old sexualness, is what she says. And I might use a similar word to that. I'm not laughing in that way. I'm laughing more at myself because I say things like that sometimes. But so this one is more rational than her saying, you need to read books more. Remember that conversation? That was so obviously a problem, but this one is potentially not a distortion. He has talked about he hasn't talked about his sexual life, but his romantic life anyway. And if his sexual life is anything like his romantic life, then he might not have much experience at all. I mean, he might have extremely limited experience. And her experience, she was saying that in her past sexual partners, she's explored a lot and asserted herself or, advocated for herself, had partners that would listen, sounds like. And she is introducing that to him. And he has a very immature is one word for it, inexperienced point of view. Maybe for sure influenced by society, maybe influenced by porn or something, who knows. But yeah, this doesn't help the dynamic between the two of them, because in this way, so if I were their therapist and they were talking about this with me, then I would have that conversation that I was basically saying earlier of just like, so yes, and I would ask him how he feels about it, and if it all made sense, I'd say, yeah, keep exploring and discussing. And Hannah, what I want you to do in terms of the story that you're telling yourself about this is you should know that you have different choices about what the story is. And one story that you tend to resort to, which is in the camp of the overcritical superior zone, is you are teaching him how to be mature, that he's an 18-year-old and you're a grown adult. That's one narrative. And it might feel extremely right to you, and other people might even agree with you, but there are other narratives. And when I have these conversations, I'll ask the Hannahs in my office, I'll say, what other narratives can you think of? Don't think about what narratives are correct or what narrative you want to land on, but let's just brainstorm other narratives. And I'd involve Nick as well. Usually the Hannahs of the world will look at me like, I don't understand, especially in the beginning. But if we've done this sort of thing before, even though they understand the assignment, they won't come up with anything. It will be like, well, I can't imagine any other way of seeing it, because they emotionally need to see it that way. And so I would then propose other narratives. And what I'd say is, this isn't the narrative. It's just a decision about what narrative you and we have choices about all sorts of narratives, and we need to be careful about what narratives we adopt, right? And another narrative is that life circumstances are such that you've just had more experience and he hasn't. The pandemic happened and he was focused on his football career, and he still lives at home with his parents. And so, yeah, you have more experience. But in terms of your future together and present together, as a couple that are having sex, and you're both coming to the table with insecurities and hopes and dreams and a desire to please the other person and a desire to please yourself, and you're getting to know each other. To me, that's another narrative, and he's listening to, you're wanting him to please you more, and he's getting to know himself too. There's a lot of different. So I'm not doing a great job, but I hope you get my point. If it was a real client, I would have more opportunity to go back and forth, more data to draw upon other possible narratives. But that's the conversation I would have, hoping to plant some seeds so that eventually, excuse the pun, that Hannah eventually would catch herself not only when she's being overly critical in a very overt way, but also this sort of like diet overcritical zone that she feels pretty comfortable in, of superior teaching, mothering and looking down on him.
It's almost like it's like an 18-year-old sexualness. Like, things gross him out. Like, eating pussy is just, like, not what he thinks about. It's like, okay, well, like, you need to realize a woman needs pleasure as much as a man.
Absolutely.
Right? He doesn't like to eat pussy. What? Yes.
Who knows what that means? The temptation is to think that he's inherently selfish. There are other factors that he might not even be aware of. I wouldn't be surprised if he just doesn't have experience and either just simply hasn't acclimated or is afraid he's going to mess it up. Is just not familiar. With practice and opportunity, he'll settle in, if you will. But it's also possible that he is actually selfish and actually immature in that way. When we are younger, we tend to be more selfish, and we want younger people to be that way. We want a 4-year-old to be more selfish. We don't want them to be giving to other people because it would take away from themselves in a time when they very much need to be focused on themselves. And there'll be time for them to, think about other people's feelings in the future. And we slowly, as we age, just even into old age, we, generally speaking, can become even more altruistic, more caring, more compassionate, more understanding, more able to focus on other people's experience. So, it, could be a factor of that as well. And then if we think about some negative conceptualizations of Nick and his personality in general, given what we saw in the pods, it's possible that he is still developing his empathy for other people, and this is evidence that, because there's the possibility that he, in his mind, if he were telling the truth to himself, he would say, look, yeah, I could become acclimated to that, but I just don't want to because I just don't care. I'm just there to have pleasure myself. That's what women are for. Who knows? There's a lot of possibilities. What do you think?
Feel pressure. Ego. So you have to be ego. Yeah, and I don't want to hit his ego. So you have to be very careful of the way you approach it.
Yeah.
But he's learning. That's the thing. It's just like with Nick, I really, truly love that man. Like, I really do. It's just sometimes I get frustrated with him just because he's not the same level I am understanding things.
Yeah, there it is. Every time the rug just gets pulled out from underneath. This is a pattern of hers. This is evidence that this is a consistent groove in the pathways in her neurons, that these things go hand in hand. I love him, but he frustrates me, and he's not at the same level. I love him, but he frustrates me because he's not at the same level. I love him, but he frustrates me because he's not at the same level. And it just gets repeated over and over and over again. A manifestation of that is that those are the sentences that come out of her mouth. She has said this multiple times on the recording, and let alone, I imagine she's probably said this many times to him, to others, in her mind, and it was there well before she even met Nick, is my guess. Okay, well, tune in next time when I continue watching if you care to, and everyone out there, please take care of yourself and take care of others. We can all take care of each other because we all deserve it. We really, really do.